There is no clarity on the timeline on when Israel and Hamas will agree to a hostage and truce deal, but Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu already has a plan for a regional peace and normalization agreement. Bibi has put the focus back on the Abraham Accords during a parliament address. Netanyahu spoke of what he referred to as, quote, moderate Arab countries. He said to Knesset lawmakers that a revised Abraham Accords will change the face of the region dramatically.
The moderate Arab countries see Israel as a regional power and a potential ally for ensuring their security and the stability and prosperity of the entire region. I intend to seize this opportunity to the fullest. Together with our American friends, I plan to expand the Abraham Accords for peace and thus change even more dramatically the face of the Middle East.
Before the war in Gaza, a spillover conflict with Lebanon and the shadow war with Iran, Israel, with its ally US as the mediator, was well on its way to further normalization ties in West Asia. The Abraham Accords of 2020 was an important step for Israel to facilitate diplomatic ties with its regional neighbors. Before the accords, only two countries had peace deals with Israel, Egypt and Jordan, signed in 1979 and 1994 respectively. It was only 4 years ago that Israel signed a slew of agreements with other Arab nations. In 2020, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Morocco signed deals brokered by the US to normalize relations with Israel and put trade agreements in place. With respect to Sudan, the country is part of the Abraham Accords, but certain details are yet to be finalized. While governments in West Asia opened up their diplomatic relations with Israel, many have criticized the Abraham Accords, that is the Abraham Accords, and the Arab nations for sidelining the clause of Palestinian statehood, which Arab leaders said they would leverage as part of the agreement. In the past few years, rising Israeli settler violence and raids in occupied West Bank have drawn flack from many. And since October last year, the dire condition of Gaza and volatility in the West Bank has sounded an alarm over the need for Palestinian statehood. With Netanyahu speaking of changing the face of West Asia dramatically and singling out so-called moderate Arab minors or nations, there are urgent questions on what it means for a legitimate, internationally recognized Palestinian statehood. Scott Lucas is a professor of international politics at Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. He's now joining us from London. Scott Lucas, thank you for making time for us. First of all, let's just start with what Netanyahu is saying, that he will change the Abraham Accords dramatically. What do you make of his comments? Let's start from there.
Netanyahu's comments, which were made to Israel's parliament, the Knesset, are political spin. We need to understand that Netanyahu, who is involved in this open-ended war in Gaza and until recently in Lebanon, who is involved in the expansion of Israeli territory in Syria, he wants to stay in power. He doesn't want early elections. He does not want to face the legal consequences of the bribery trial that is ongoing against him right now. So what does he do? He says, I can remake West Asia. Now, part of the context for this is that Donald Trump is returning to Washington, to the White House. And of course, the Trump administration had promoted the Abraham Accords during its term. Fair enough. But to have Abraham Accords, you have to have partners. And the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco will all be very wary of links with Israel while the Gaza war is ongoing. In other words, if Israel is attacking the Palestinians and causing mass casualties, what Arab state wants to be seen sacrificing Palestine during a time of war? And behind those countries, importantly, is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, which had been amenable to normalization before the Gaza war, during Gaza has said, that Israel is carrying out genocide and has said that the priority is a two-state solution. In other words, a recognition of Palestine that Benjamin Netanyahu has never been willing to give. So no, there is no prospect, unless there is a lasting Gaza ceasefire, that there will be a resurrection of the Abraham Accords.
Mr. Scott Lucas, let's talk about something else that is causing concern, and this is the normalization with Arab nations. We are seeing the involvement of Syria right now. What do you think that will do, or what are the ramifications of this, or the significance of this talk of normalizing relations with Arab nations, which include Gaza?
Normalization in that sense is a diversion from what is happening in Syria for two reasons. I think the first thing is that the priority is that you get a Syria which is stable from the inside. We're still in the process of a transitional government being formed, but the leading faction, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, has been pragmatic so far. They've been pragmatic in maintaining security. They've been pragmatic in calling for no discrimination against minorities. And they've been pragmatic in terms of the priority of reconstruction. So their outreach to other countries is not, concerned as much with Israel and normalization. It's concerned with getting reconstruction aid, whether that's from Turkey, whether that's from the Gulf states, whether that's from other countries, such as India. But the second aspect of this is that Israel's not normalizing when it comes to Syria. Israel is actually adding to instability by expanding its zone of occupation in southwest Syria. And only a few days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu sat on the top of Mount Hermon, one of the tallest points in Syria, and effectively claimed it as Israeli territory, promising to double the number of settlers in the area. So no, normalization, even if that was to occur with Arab states, which I don't think it will, that is in contradiction almost to Israel grabbing territory within Syria.
All right, we'll have to leave this discussion there. Mr. Scott Lucas, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Thank you and your viewers.